For decades, many contractors have relied on building their business through personal relationships and word of mouth. These legacy networks often last from generation to generation. But in today's digital world, relying on these methods might be holding you back more than you might think. In the 70s and 80s, referrals were king. Often a good name and handshake would land you project after project. In the 90s, brought email into the mix, enabling you to communicate to customers in different ways. By the 2000s, the industry race was to the bottom. Everyone was chasing the lowest bid, and you can no longer differentiate on past ways of marketing. Then came LinkedIn in 2010s. For most companies, featured like an online brochure or an online CV, offering just having a profile because everyone else did. There was no strategy and no tactics towards it. Eventually, it was difficult for the industry to differentiate one M&E contractor from another, and cracks began to show in the sector itself. It was no longer possible to compete and win projects purely down to price and cutting corners. This was no longer sustainable, and it's like costing companies their reputation. And as you know, once your reputation hits, it's then very difficult to land long-lasting contracts. There needed to be a solution, right? And the industry as a whole began to pivot. Leading M&E contractors shifted their focus from being the cheapest to being the most trusted. Compliance, safety and transparency became key differentiators in their positioning, and the platform of choice, LinkedIn. It evolved from being a static CV into a powerful platform for thought leadership. Smart companies started using it to both regulatory updates, project learnings, and to build trust at scale. Your online reputation is no longer nice to have, it's quite possibly your biggest asset. In today's video, I'll show you exactly how to turn your LinkedIn presence into a client acquisition machine without having to rely on outdated methods. We'll cover how to optimize your profile, from the profile banner all the way down to the feature section. We'll also go into how to create content that will position your brand as a go-to thought leader for compliance, regulatory, and safety content for the B2B industrial supply space, so you can start landing high-value clients consistently. So people always ask, hey Matt, you always talk about how to book meetings, generate leads and grow a business through LinkedIn. You also discuss increasing revenue using LinkedIn. But what's the real driving force behind that? What actually drives sales, conversions, leads? So hear me out, because today the video is going to go into just that. The main purpose for LinkedIn profiles is to build trust and credibility in the service or product you offer to your ideal customer. Every section on LinkedIn, whether it's a profile headline, banner, profile picture, services about section or experience, exists for a reason. LinkedIn hasn't included these sections just for the sake of it. Each section is a specific use case. Yeah, most people overlook their importance. Those who truly understand and optimize them generate leads, drive revenue, and dominate their competition. Each section should compel your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and potential clients to take a specific action, whether that's booking a meeting, checking out your case studies, or reviewing testimonials. Here's a big question. How do you make your profile conversion friendly so that anyone from your ICP who lands on it has the highest chance of converting into a paying client? And how do you ensure that when a potential buyer visits your profile, they're more likely to book a meeting and do business with you? So in that mind, let's talk about what we're going to discuss in the video today. Let's break this video into two parts. In the first section, I'll show you the kind of LinkedIn posts to capture your ideal customer profile and attract potential clients. However, attract them is only the first step. Once they visit your profile, it needs to be fully optimized to convert their interest into meaningful connections, which is why in the second section of the video, we'll dive into strategies for refining your profile. So to begin with, let's explore what kind of LinkedIn posts actually grab the attention of your ideal customer profile, what type of content pulls them in, starts conversations, and positions you as a go-to expert. Let's break it down into more detail. Building trust through thought leadership. Recognize the problem. Outdated content just doesn't cut it anymore. Too many M&E contractors still stick to the old routine, posting pictures of perfect projects without detailed breakdowns or any challenges they overcome. Sure, a pretty picture will capture the feed, but it doesn't build the real trust that today's decision makers, in particular tier 1 and principal contractors, really need. In an industry where every project involves significant risk, a static portfolio simply isn't enough. Without a strong narrative and thought leadership posts, they explain exactly what challenges your team overcome, how they are compliant with regulatory or legislative details, and why safety and compliance in all the relevant regulation is vital. Potential clients can't differentiate you from competitors. You just simply don't provide that level of detail. In this industry, consequences can be serious, ranging from life-threatening and costly site failures to long-lasting damage to your reputation, not to mention legal consequences. This is why your potential clients scrutinize your track record before signing any contracts. However, by leveraging insightful LinkedIn posts that showcase your expertise, you can build the trust needed to set you apart from your competitors. How can you change this way of working then? So, the difference is project-only posts versus regulatory thought leadership posts. So, what are thought leadership posts? It's quite a bit of a buzzword. It has been for the past 5 years. What it actually means is having a real understanding of the macro issues impacting your ideal customer profiles. It could be from legislative issues, regulation, the economy, inflation. In this situation, we're going to discuss the Building Safety Act and all manner of legislation which clearly impacts principal and tier 1 contractors on a day-to-day basis. So here goes. Safety regulation and compliance. Let's talk about the latest updates, whether it's Building Safety Act, new wiring regulations, installer best practices, or training, but keep M&E installations safe. Always lean into your own market insights, your personal market observations that you've taken on board over the last 20, 30 years across the lifespan of your work. Always include case studies. Specifically, it goes without saying, real life examples show how the following these standards saved a project or prevented a major issue. And in terms of thought leadership then, so as we said, share your unique perspective on market trends and explain the risks of cutting corners in M&E installations. Help your audience understand the long-term benefits of doing the right thing. So the real value, why does this approach with crafting LinkedIn posts in this way win more projects with tier 1 and principal contractors? In our industry, every decision involves millions of pounds and decades-long reputations are on the line. Trust isn't just an added bonus, it's a currency that wins business. If you take this approach, you have less risk. Your audience sees that you're serious about safety, you're serious about regulation, you understand the ins and outs of the Building Safety Act and how that's applicable to both your supply chain and the installation itself. This means for tier 1 and principal contractors, you're reducing risks for them on every project. When you constantly talk about compliance and safety, you build a legacy that goes well beyond individual M&E installations or projects. Clients aren't just looking for a contractor to save them a few quid. They're looking for a partner who understands how to manage risk, deliver quality work, and uphold the reputation of that tier 1 or principal contractor. So when you discuss and craft LinkedIn posts such as these, you position yourself in a premium mindset. When you build trust, you can command premium prices. People are willing to invest more and trust you more when you're the expert on exactly the issues that they care about. And you can build long-term relationships. Trust creates lasting partnerships. It's not about booking a few meetings. It's about developing pipelines that lead to consistent, high-value contracts. So here's a step-by-step guide of what to post and how to position yourself. First of all, start running an audit. Take a long, hard look at what you're posting now. Review your current content. Are you only showing the picture postcards of the installations? Are you not going to depth about what steps your team have overcome, how you've come across making decisions, and how the regulatory or legislation outlines are really impacting your day-to-day M&E installations? If you explain how doing the right thing is essential, then that should be your starting point. Identify any gaps in the content where you could discuss real industry challenges or share insights on compliance and safety. And not just that, share insights of poor working practices if you see it on site. Share insights about how the Building Safety Act will actually impact the day-to-day work carried out by M&E contractors on the ground and how it impacts decisions made by tier 1 and principal contractors. Really focus into key topics. Yes, it's important to talk about safety regulation and compliance. Of course it is. Talking about the latest updates, whether it's Building Safety Act, new wiring regulations, or best practice around installation. Make sure you're keeping your work safe. It's vital. Next, we can also talk about the golden thread, the importance of keeping information digital, the importance of making sure you've got a traceable record of all the decisions made within any project. That could be data on the quality of product, data on the spec of the product, and it's very important that this golden thread is monitored and maintained throughout the whole life cycle of a building. We'd also recommend giving market insights and case studies. Again, using real life examples to show how following new standards save a project or prevented any major issues. So for example, with market insight, you could talk about how the industry has been changing over the past 10 to 15 years. Yes, price, it would always be a sensitive issue, and yes, price would always be a factor which influences wherever a tier 1 or principal contract will decide to go with yourself as an M&E contractor over another. However, it's very clear that their reputation and the legacy of tier 1 principal contractors is vital to their interests. They want to make sure they're partnered with M&E contractors and the supply chain who really have the Building Safety Act and the legislative framework at the core of every decision that they make. And finally, again, we'll go back to thought leadership. Share your unique perspectives on market trends and explain the risks of cutting corners and just not doing the right thing. Help your audience, help your tier 1 contractors and principal contractors see the long-term benefits, both commercially, practically, and morally, of doing the right thing. And step 3, make sure you're not just spouting facts and figures. Really inbound your stories into just that, a story, a personal story. Instead of being just the guy or company with great project photos, presenting yourself as a guide, as the industry educator. Use relatable language that emphasizes trust, talk about reducing risk, protecting reputations, and ensuring the long-term success of projects. Present your posts as real solutions to the challenges M&E contractors face day after day. Showing the focusing on compliance isn't just a safe choice, It's a smart one and a commercial one. So in the next part of the video then, we're going to talk about the profile and how, as we said, creating content is only the first part. Once they're on your profile, we need to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind to go ahead and book a meeting with yourself. So let's break this profile structure down. First, at the very top, we have the profile banner. Does it highlight one clear offer? Is it free of clutter and excessive text? We'll avoid just using the company logo. Always add a clear, specific message. So for me, I help M&E contractors win trust in the minds of tier 1 contractors. I help them through my LinkedIn workshops, my 90-day LinkedIn plans. And that's clearly portrayed in my banner. See, I've stuck with the one offer of LinkedIn workshops. And when I've redesigned the banner, we'll look at designing one specifically for speaking and focusing on the 90-day LinkedIn self-sustainable plans. So next, let's look at the profile picture. Are you smiling? It might sound silly, but when you smile, psychology shows it reciprocates and you become much more memorable to the viewer. It has to be 400 by 400 pixels in JPEG or PNG. The background we recommend to be decluttered and aligned with brand colors to make sure that you get that your face is memorable to the user, and that it aligns with the brand colors for familiarity. Headline. So there's a lot of information around what the headline should be. In my mind, I'd recommend it to be really specific. You specify who you help and how. So, for example, in my case, I help B2B external sales teams generate the right meetings through LinkedIn. Okay? Make sure it doesn't just show your job title. That can be put down in the experiences below. So make sure your headline is short, clear, and benefit driven. Next, we'll look at the website link. Okay? This differs depending on if you have a free or premium profile. If you're on a free profile, you can add various choices. Obviously, any third-party link. I'd recommend using a scheduling link to your meetings through Calendly or HubSpot. This is placed under your location. Or you can link to your website or a landing page where you have a free guide that users will find extremely useful that they can implement there and then on the spot. For premium profiles, you have a CTA button. For a CTA button, you have various options. Download now, get started, request a demo, try now, contact us or learn more. I'd recommend contact us. And remember, when someone views your profile for the first time, the CTA button on a premium profile will show up. Now we go to the About section. I'd recommend using sentences. White space for each sentence to make it easier to read. We recommend sharing your story and a background to build trust. Clearly outline what you do and the problems you solve. Include past success stories to demonstrate credibility. End with a clear call to action. Here's my example on my About section. So, have you ever been in a meeting where sales professionals dismiss LinkedIn for lead generation? It's not their fault. I would have done the same in their shoes. If so, you're not alone. Like all many B2B sales teams, they lack clear guidance and didn't see any results from any of their previous efforts. So why don't they trust this new method? So it's inspired to create a LinkedIn strategy that focused on aligning company goals with LinkedIn marketing, one-to-one personal brand workshops, not fluff. It's clear, no nonsense advice. It's applicable to their situations. A content strategy based on expertise, weekly content planning sessions. There was no faff. They don't have time when they're on the road in the M25, 9 to 5, going from site to site. Writing high converting copy, writing content ideation to make it as easy as possible for the sales team to generate ideas on the road, and tracking results for optimization, i.e., how can we improve what we've done last week? The outcome, this system turned LinkedIn into a lead generation powerhouse. In other words, after implementing this strategy, the sales team I work with started generating leads and opening the doors to elite contractors. The next part of the profile then is the services section. It's best for freelancers. Have you clearly listed your services in the About section? Have you highlighted the key skills? Have you linked to images and documents showcasing past work? Have you invited past clients to leave reviews? As we all know, social proof is king. If you don't have the previous evidence, then why should anyone trust you? Here we have the 7 is the features section. It's important you add this to your profile. It's a brilliant way to show others what you've done. And again, it rings the bell of social proof. So I recommend having no more than 2 to 3 slides. So first of all, I'm recommending having your most important case study. Put it loud and proud. I'd also link to a meeting scheduler. And also, if you want to use one more slide, I'd opt for having a really useful guide, a checklist for prospects, okay? This is an example of the meeting scheduler that I set up in my featured section. Now, let's go to experience. Typically where we list our jobs. So, have you highlighted key results in your role? I.e., for example, managing a project portfolio which worth over 100 million. Really be specific on the results that you created in your past job experiences. So, for example, as an M&E contract, really go to town on the worth and value of the M&E projects you've worked in, or what matters and processes you've implemented to make sure that the environment and the installation was at the highest standard and met all the key criteria. Have you outlined career progression? I.e., have you given a really specific example of how you progressed in that job? For example, did you grow from managing one client to leading a team of 5 contractors? education section. Have you listed your relevant degrees, skills and professional training? It's really important here that you list all the key learning qualifications that you have here, okay? This leads nicely into licenses and certifications. Have you added work-related certificates, e.g. site management and safety training schemes? Have you selected key skills and endorsed them? Down to recommendations. Do you have at least 3 recommendations from previous clients or colleagues? Additional profile tips. Always regularly update your profile with new skills, experiences and achievements. Customize your LinkedIn URL to make it clean and professional. Set your profile visibility to public for maximum exposure. Also make sure you're looking at your profile regularly to see who's viewing your profile and how it's grown. So how can I help you? Well, aside from having a clear, no-nonsense 90-day LinkedIn plan, we'll take your team from viewing LinkedIn as just an extra task to one where they can really attack the day of it, and strategy after 90 days, which is self-sustainable. You don't need to rely on external sources again. I also offer on their own LinkedIn workshops, one-to-one and small groups are free. This is tailored for anyone who's beginning at LinkedIn, all the way to those who have been using LinkedIn for 2 to 3 years and want to start generating and networking to those customers they currently don't reach, and for those who want to generate meetings with their ideal customer prospects. I also offer you a done-for-you LinkedIn strategy and execution. This feeds in nicely with the 90-day plan I discussed, as well as custom LinkedIn content plan and copywriting, if that's what you're looking for. Okay. So my details can be found here, mdavisdigital@outlook.com, or simply direct message me on my LinkedIn. Okie dokie. Well, so finally, thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.